Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a few weeks now since I got back from my Iceland trip and I haven't posted anything. And the reason why is that I didn't really vlog it the way I normally vlog my adventure trips, you know, like talking into the camera and that sort of thing. I just took sort of B-roll, a few pictures and that sort of thing. But I thought I made some notes on the pad and I thought I'd do this video to try and help other people if they're going to do an Iceland trip, and in particular the Laugavegur Trail that I done. And I thought it'd be useful, one, for me to remind myself what I done as I do with all these videos, but also if it could help other people, then this video might be useful to you.
I'm Jamie. I've never been a 9 till 5 guy, and seeking out new experiences has always called to me. Whether it's micro or something a bit bigger, join me on my next adventure.
Here we go, I've made a few tips, so excuse if I look down every now and again. I put keep your bag as light as possible, in brackets, unlike me. My bag was way too heavy, which you'll hear about in a second. I took all my camera gear, not all my camera gear, but I took a big DSLR mirrorless type thing, a couple of lenses. I actually took a drone and various other bits and bobs, electronics and all that sort of stuff. And I put camera gear was a big mistake. The trail has lots of ups and downs, and having a heavy bag made climbing and descents very slow. If you take a camera, which I do recommend, take a small point and shoot or use your phone. And so the whole trip was absolutely amazing, but what made it worse or unnecessarily hard was taking my camera gear. It's one of those things that I've got a really good setup now. I really like my setup with wild camping and hiking and stuff. But I thought, oh, I'm going to Iceland. I'm doing the Laugavegur Trail. I need to take some incredible photography and blah, blah, blah. And I've got all the gear as well. So I thought I'd be stupid not to take it. And to be fair, I did get some great pictures. But it was just, the bag was way too heavy. And because, like I said before, it's really up and down the whole trip. It just made it miserable, basically. And so if I was going to do it again, and I probably will do it again at some point, I'm not going to take on my camera gear. You know, a decent point and shoot, small camera, brilliant, and like I said, your phone. I mean, if you're going to Iceland for any other reason than hiking, a 50 kilometre, 50 mile, whatever it is, trip with tent on your bag, take your camera gear, because it's arguably one of the best places in the world to take, camera gear, take pictures, beautiful. But if you're hiking 3 or 4 days in that sort of terrain, do you take your camera gear? Don't you take your camera gear? I wouldn't do that again. It made the bag way too heavy. And as people know, as you may know, if you're into these sort of things, if you're hiking many, many days, the weight and size of your pack is everything. The heavier your pack, the more miserable you are. So that's what I would do differently. 2, book airport bus and Highland bus online before you go. You can change the Highland bus very easily by giving them a call or an email. They were very friendly. So I booked, like I said, the airport bus and the Highland bus to the start of the Laugavegur Trail and back again before I even, touched down in Iceland. I've done it all online, which was really useful because then I knew it was booked and I had a space, which was great because it's a busy, busy place, especially in the summer. So I recommend doing that beforehand. And like I said, you can easily change your bus by a phone call or an email. They were really nice on the phone, and so I really recommend booking your space. But again, it's really easy to change, so if you need to change it, just change it. That's what I would do. The campsites when I got there, so Reykjavic eco campsites in the centre of Reykjavik was a great base. It's easily booked online and friendly staff, although it was quite busy. A good swap and share system on a rack near the facilities. The eco campsite where I based myself either side of the trail hike, really, really good. Like I said, it's quite busy, but really good base. You can walk in and out of centre of Reykjavik really easy, like 30, 40 minutes walk, but an easy walk. But yeah, a really, really great campsite, great facilities. They are really like well staffed, and yeah, it was really, really good. So I can highly, highly recommend getting that as your base if you're in a tent or a camper van, if you're anywhere near Reykjavik. And another point is that it's worth having a couple of days in Reykjavik. It's a great city, and I spent the first day there actually to buy gas. So at the start of it, I booked the campsite for one night at the start and a couple of nights or a night at the end of the trail. But I actually changed my mind. And the reason is because I thought I can't take gas on the plane. So I booked the first night arriving in Reykjavik at the campsite, and it was late. So the next day I walked into Reykjavik to buy gas, solely to buy gas. But then I had a nice cup of coffee and lunch and stuff. And then I started the trail the next day. So yeah, it's a really worthwhile place to go. Reykjavik is buzzing, really, really cool place. Okay, another tip. The Highland bus to the start and end of the trail was really fun. About half the journey was on Iceland's F roads, but you need to book in advance. And I've said about booking in advance before. You just need to book in advance, whether it's a day or a month or whatever, but you need to book in advance to get to the start and end of the trail. But the Highland bus was, that was half the fun. It was brilliant. Like I said, half the trip, it's about a 4-hour trip, but half the trip is actually on Iceland's F roads, which are basically off-road 4x4 roads. And these buses are incredible. I'm into like camper vans and big vehicles anyway, so they were even better for me. But it was a real fun journey, going through rivers, and it's basically like being on a ride, for a couple of hours. It's really, 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 really good. So I recommend that, and I actually really enjoy myself just a bus ride. So another tip, the campsites on the trail are well run, quite busy, but well spread out. Good facilities, plenty of water, no power, so don't expect to have any power. There's no phone signal at Emstra. There was a bit of phone signal with other ones, but there was zero at Emstra. Don't expect to keep your tent clean either. Like I said, brilliant campsites. They were really well run. Can't complain. Lovely people, really accommodating. But don't expect to keep your tent clean. My tent was absolutely filthy. As hard as I could to try and keep it clean, inside, outside, especially inside, it was just filthy. So just expect your tent to be absolutely caked in, I suppose it's black sort of volcanic ash that just gets everywhere. Yeah, I spent quite a lot of time cleaning when I got back. Another tip, the river crossings are fun but extremely cold, but I put in brackets, but nice, cold. There are 3 or 4 relatively deep crossings. Definitely recommend water crossing shoes. Hiking poles were great for stability too. So I like walking with hiking poles, especially when there's a heavy pack on my back. And water crossing shoes, again, there were rocks underneath the riverbed, so you can't really see what you're walking on. So I really recommend having, just a light pair of water shoes. They could be whatever. I took my like flip-flops, so it was fine, but other people just had various other like beach shoes, that sort of thing. But anything light and something that you don't have to have your feet on the rocks, which you could cut your feet. But everyone was doing it. It was really, really good. And the water, like I said, absolutely freezing but nice. It was a nice cold, and actually my feet liked it, I think. So another tip, most tents I noticed were freestanding ones, not many tunnel tents, mainly because it's hard to use tent pegs. You use stones a lot. So pegging out, we use stones, everybody used stones, and there was plenty of stones in the campsite for that very reason. It was just sort of like a volcanic ash. It was either really hard and you couldn't dig it in, or it was just sand. Loads of stones about. And again, tunnel tents, although they might have been fine, there were a few, but most tents there were freestanding, like dome tents basically. And that's one of the reasons why I got my tent for this trip in particular. 4 season, or 3 to 4 season at least as well, because it can get blimmin' windy. Right, another tip, Eye mask and earplugs are a great idea. They really helped me. In fact, I would have struggled if I didn't have that, because basically it just doesn't get dark in the summer in Iceland. So even though the sunset was about just after midnight and sunrise was, I think, just before 3 a.m, but it's still not dark. It's just twilight basically. So because it is light basically all day, time zones and people sort of going to sleep or coming into the camp or leaving camp doesn't really exist. So it can be quite noisy, even quite late. So yeah, an eye mask and some decent earplugs, highly, highly recommended. Another tip, I used card for most things, as in for paying card payment for most things. But one campsite, the card machine wasn't working, so a small bit of cash was useful / needed. I like having a small bit of cash wherever I go abroad, but card was fine everywhere. You know, it wasn't a problem. It was just that one place that the card machine wasn't working because the reception was dodgy. So yeah, I recommend a small bit of cash. Another tip, the first campsite is very high and cold. In fact, it's the highest point of the whole Laugavegur Trail, and windy. So cold weather gear is needed if you're going to stay, especially if you're going to stay. But other campsites were quite warm, so warm like sunscreen, shorts, and cold weather, hat, gloves, puff jacket, all the gear is needed basically. So I didn't stay, I powered through past the first campsite, but a lot of people stayed, and it was, you know, ice on the edge of the campsites. It was absolutely freezing. Whereas back down to the valleys, it can be quite warm, you know, so it's one of those places that you need everything basically, if it was cold and hot stuff. The next tip, actually, I was lucky with the weather, but apparently the week before the weather was awful. It's very changeable, so be prepared for everything and anything. Like I said, you've got to take a bit of everything, a bit of cold gear, a bit of warm gear, shorts, trousers, you know, some decent boots, obviously, because it's a big trail. But yeah, you need to take a bit of everything. It could be like, if you're in the UK, it's like walking in the winter for the afternoon and then walking in summer the next day. You know, it's literally that different. So you need a bit of everything clothing wise. Okay, so last point. It was a country that felt completely alive. There was a real feeling of things happening below your feet. And I was even in 5 or 6 small earthquakes, which led to a volcano eruption the week after I left. An amazing experience and highly recommended. Yeah, Iceland is like no other place, from as far as I know, on the planet. It is absolutely, you've got to go there if you're into nature, hiking, photography, travel. It was unbelievably good. I'm definitely going to be going back there, maybe even on a regular basis. It's that good. And like I said, I've never been in an earthquake before, and I was in 5 or 6 earthquakes, mini earthquakes, you know, nothing too crazy, but enough to sort of go, whoa, this is a bit unnerving. And like I said, a week after I left, the volcano erupted near the airport. It didn't shut down airports or anything like that, but it was, you know, it was enough to be on the news basically. It's a country that you can really feel the stuff coming underneath you. You know, you're walking through different terrains on the Laugavegur Trail. You're walking through steam, different smells. It looks different every single day. Absolutely unbelievable. So I can highly, highly recommend hiking the Laugavegur Trail and going to Iceland in general. I think that's all my notes. So hopefully that was useful to you if you're planning to hike the Laugavegur Trail, however you want to say it. And also helpful if you're going to Iceland as well. I've got some nice trips coming up. I'm planning another trip in Scotland in a couple of months' time, or next month actually. So if you like this sort of thing, and if you check out other videos, what I like to do, don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, I do these videos to remind myself what I've done as like a bit of like a dear diary. But if I can help other people, then I suppose that's all good, isn't it? So yeah, so thanks for watching if you've watched this far, and hopefully I shall catch up with you very, very soon.